I'm gonna teach you guys how to take your art to the next level. Now, don't get me wrong, this painting is amazing. I love how it turned out, but it just looks better like this. And I keep doing this for my favorite paintings. Like, this is amazing. I love how it turned out, but it looks better like this. There's no cheat code, but it's actually super duper easy, and all you have to do is take a picture of the picture. So you want to make sure you have a relatively good phone camera and that you have great lighting. There's nothing fancy going on here. All you're going to do is make sure you have good lighting. I'm holding my lamp here, and once I take a decent photo with good lighting all around, I just crop it, but I'm making sure that I'm not cropping it too much to where I'm losing certain elements of the painting. My goal is to crop it exactly where the edge of the camera meets. This doesn't take long at all. It's super simple, but while you're doing this, you also want to make sure there's no dark spots in your picture itself. And what that means is you're avoiding any dark spots. You don't want one edge of the canvas to be darker. So you really do want to make sure that the entire thing has good quality, that's why I'm zooming in, and good lighting. So after I take the perfect picture, I just go ahead and send it to myself. So at this point, you would have to have some sort of iPad where you do digital art, and all you're gonna do is import the photo onto whatever platform you use. I use Procreate. I don't know if you can import photos on IBS Paint, but I would recommend doing that. So it's super easy. It may look hard, but it's not. So you can see there's little imperfections everywhere. So the first thing you want to do is blend. So when you're painting on canvas, there's gonna be a little bit of texture, which is the beauty in it. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much, so we're just gonna go ahead and blend away all those imperfections. Now keep in mind, I still want this to look like a painting. Don't necessarily want it to look like a digital art piece, so I'm using textured brushes in order to blend. On top of that, I'm not going blend crazy, I'm just blending very little. My main focus is just to smooth out the skin a little bit, but I'm still keeping that texture intentionally. I really feel like this is a great thing to do for commissions. I have not started making real money off of commissions yet, but I know when I create digital prints, I would love to just go in and make little subtle changes here and there, because it really does make a difference and it makes the painting look much cleaner. When you're painting, it's really hard to get in the nitty-gritty little spots, and just going in and touching it up digitally is like, it's a really rewarding feeling. To me, this is a good alternative because you're still creating art. You can always go back, hit the backspace button if you make a mistake, and you can tweak it as much to your liking. So when I'm blending, I'm using a very small size blender because, again, my idea is to be a little bit more subtle. I want it to look very clean, but I also still want it to look like a painting. And I remember when I was actually painting, I started getting a little bit frustrated because I couldn't get the result that I really want to. So this is such a great process because now you get to achieve that result. And here you can see I'm doing little touch-ups, which is great because that kind of leads me into my next thing, which is that you can go in and actually retouch and make little minor changes and sharpen certain areas. Personally, this step is one of my favorite parts. I love sharpening up those edges, so that leads me into sharpening. So let me explain to you guys my process when I'm sharpening. Again, I want it to look realistic, so all I'm doing is using the color tool so I can really get the best swatch of color. For example, here on the lips, there are a lot of different colors going on, but I use the outer corner because that's what's gonna be shown. And since I'm so far zoomed in, I really do feel like I'm making such an impact. Like, oh my gosh, this is gonna look so fake. Like, you know, it looks terrible. But during this process, I'm constantly zooming out to see the damage I made. Like, does it look too sharp? Does it look fake? And usually, even though it looks like a lot of work when it's zoomed in, once you zoom out, it looks perfectly fine. So that's why the footage is kind of choppy, but I really am just zooming in and out to see, okay, am I doing this right? Am I happy with that move? Should I delete it? Sometimes I was going back and forth between making a change or not. It really is fun. And since you're done, you don't have to worry about it turning out bad because the undo button is right there. At this point, you're just experimenting. And I did the same thing for the grass. Leaves. I just you know, selected a color and I was like, okay, looks pretty similar to me. And then I just went in and sharpened and added a little bit more so that it looked more luscious. I also noticed that the leaves I didn't pay that much attention to, and I didn't add much highlights. So I actually went in and added some yellow at the outer corner of the leaves. You'll find that all these small changes make a really big impact. You're gonna see at the end, but it's actually crazy how much work I did. And I remember when I finished, I was like, I don't even know if it's gonna look different, but it looked so different. So if you have that same thought when you're going about this, I guess you're doing something right. As far as the brushes that I'm using, I didn't really use many textured brushes. I kind of stick to the studio pen because that's what I like to use to just sharpen up and get sharp lines. Since I was curious, I actually used a little bit more texture with the leaves because I felt like I kind of had that freedom to do so in nature. But on everything else, I didn't necessarily use any texture unless I was trying to blend and make it look a little bit natural. I would use a canvas like brush, which I didn't know if it did much difference because at the end of the day, again, all these changes I'm making are so minor. Like once you zoom out, you can't really see anything. It's more like a little goes a long way. Before I go, I want to tell you guys some things that you should avoid if you do decide to use this process. First thing is, yes, there's an undo button, but always start dark to light. I mean light to dark. This means that you should start with a very opaque color and you can build up the intensity of your colors. The other thing is don't blend too much. Again, we're doing plastic surgery on our art, but we don't want people to know we have plastic surgery. Finally, have fun, let loose. Also, there's this really good artist. She's kind of a small content creator, but you should definitely follow her. Oh, that's me. And here's the after. Thanks for watching, guys.